what's interesting as you make a documentary like Food Inc. Is I didn't know where we were going exactly. Uh, as I say, I wanted to tell a story from all different points of view on how we get the food to our table. But as we were proceeding, so many people were saying they didn't want to be part of the film. So it was interesting to try to make sort of a fair, balanced film without any narration, and yet have so many important players not be part of it. We spent a lot of time pursuing corporations, and just were being turned down time and time again. And we would go out and film and bring the footage back, and we'd start to tell the Monsanto side of the Monsanto story. I'd tell the story about the chicken growers, and we'd accumulate different stories. Still not quite sure how they're all fitting together. Then, as the film was starting to come together, very much towards the end, I get a call from Walmart saying they're ready to be in the film. And it's like, oh my gosh, what do we do now? I had no idea. It's like, on one level, I feel obligated to film with a big industrial player after they finally said yes, but I had no idea how it was going to fit into the film, and I had no idea what role they were going to play in the film, how I was going to view them. That was really, I just didn't know. And it was going to be determined ultimately by being with them. But we all go off to New Hampshire to this farm, and right before filming they said, well, we have final cut, don't we? And we said,
oh my God.
no, of course you can't have final cut. And then they said, well, does Gary Hirschberg, will he be viewing it, and can he decide? I said, no, Gary can't decide. But they decided to be in the film anyway. But for me, it was scary because I didn't know where it was going to go in the film. So that's one of those challenges. But it turned out, and to my surprise, that they mentioned that they were no longer using RBST, which is the growth hormone for the dairy cows. And it was a story that I always found very interesting. And it was an absolute shock to everyone there that they were going to end their purchasing of milk with that chemical in it. And so all of a sudden I thought, this is a positive story about the consumer. This is a wonderful story to show that we as consumers have power.
Well, there does seem to be an activist message here.
Yeah. But from my point of view, I thought, this is interesting because it can show how we can help change the system.
And that's what Participant is all about as well. I mean, what kind of, you took it to Berlin, right? Was that the first place?
No, our first festival was Toronto. We were not 100% complete when we went to Toronto, but we were almost there. And for me, it was really interesting because we screened it, and I had no idea what the response would be. And it was fantastic. People stood up and cheered, and it was like, oh my God, it makes sense. It's an incredible thing because you're in a dark room for so long and you just don't know, does anyone else find this interesting or not? So that was a great experience. And then going to Berlin was an amazing experience because we screened in a huge theater. I think it was 1,800 seats.
And you shot with Panasonic digital cameras?
Yeah, we shot on HD cameras, and I think it really looks good. It's really beautiful. Richard Pierce was the cinematographer, and a young man named Jay Redmond shot second camera, and Chris Barron shot. And the footage, I'm thrilled how pretty it looks.
It is pretty.
Yeah.
I mean, you put a lot of effort into all the graphics and keeping it lively.
Well, the graphics were really important, and it was like, how do you add a tone where, it's not all heavy? I think so with the graphics we consciously said, we want to make people smile in the midst of giving them this information. And the music, Mark Adler's music did that as well, so that we want to take you on a journey. Someone said to me, it was a delightfully distressing experience. And I thought, okay, that's
That's right. That's exactly right. It's disturbing, and it changes the way that you approach the shopping experience. Now, so you have a sense from what you've gathered that there is actual change occurring as a result of your movie. What kind of evidence do you have of that?
Well, we screened the film for the Secretary of Agriculture. We screened the film for the head of the FDA, the head of the USDA. So it's been, kind of amazing to have people who are discussed in the film choose to go look at it and want to engage in conversation. At one point, they said, if there's a movement, we will follow. And I think it was Eric, who said, well, you don't need a movement for food safety. That's something we should just have. And there's now legislation that the FDA has put in to basically be able to recall food that is making us sick. I found it hard to believe that the government didn't have this power. There were many things in this film that I found shocking. I thought I knew about the subject, and I would be really shocked as we would proceed. How much information is kept away from us as a consumer? I didn't realize that. But anyway, I think it looks like there'll be recalls. The government will have the power to recall, which I think is great. It looks like that's going through. It looks like there could be antitrust legislation against Monsanto. I think that's potentially important. That hasn't occurred, but it's certainly being discussed in a much more active way.